Great. It shows us live, so I just want to double check that I can see us and hear us okay before we get this started. All right, we are right at the 11 o'clock hour, so I'll just go ahead and have us get kicked off and started. And as people join us, then they can let us know that they are tuning in. I do see the notification, so hopefully you guys can see us and hear us fine. Whether you are viewing this on our YouTube channel or Facebook, this is streamed on both of those platforms to allow whichever platform you feel comfortable tuning in from for you to do so. One thing that I always like to emphasize is if you are a first-time viewer or if you have continued to follow the page but aren't really seeing some of the information that we post out frequently, is that you need to not only like the page, but make sure that you're following it. Different algorithms push different priorities in your feed. And when you're following a page, it allows you to know when we post content or go live into the future. Now, this feature is also available to you if you're viewing this on our YouTube channel. The difference is that it's called subscribe. So it's the subscribe button that's on there. And what YouTube will actually do is after we're no longer live, it'll give you a quick text or a notification will pop up on your phone that says this video is ready for you to rewatch and rewind. So the videos are always available to you to binge watch, rewatch, ask us questions that you might have that you maybe didn't think of during the time that we were live. You can always come back to us and make sure that you engage. So they're found all in the video section here on our Facebook and YouTube page. And of course, giving us the hashtag replay in the comment section when you do post a comment or if you do ask a question allows us to be able to see that quickly and go to that and pull it through. That does take me to another way that you can engage with us. And that is if you are tuned in with me, then I want you to hit the share button on this video so others in your network can see that we're also live and can hopefully either join us now or later. So whether you watch it in the morning, afternoon, or evening, I thank you for taking that time to catch up on all the information that we share out here on our channel. Of course, if you have questions that come to mind or you have comments that you want us to be aware of or thoughts, the comment section here on our video or you are on Facebook or our YouTube platform allow for you to share any of your direct comments or thoughts. And we're able to pull that in real time with our speaker to get that answered for you. Of course, another way that you can let us know you're tuned in with us is by reacting to the video. You can give us any of the emojis, the hearts, the thumbs up, even the angry ones. We'll take them all, but it does show me who you are and that you're tuned in, and at least allows me to kind of red flag that you came on and spent some of the portion of your morning with us. Now, generally on a weekly basis, we have broadcasts on Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays allow you to know about what's going on here in our community with city updates that rotate. They rotate from our mayor, our councilors, Mayor Pro Tem, our city manager, and they give you a nice overview of what's been happening at your city hall, at study sessions, at city council meetings, and hopefully address some of those concerns or questions that you might have in the community, with the exception of this week. So I do have to put that in there. Of course, Monday we were closed for Juneteenth, which is a national holiday, and therefore we did not host our regular live broadcast. So we will be back on here with a live city updates next Monday. So I just wanted to draw recognition to that. Our Wednesday segment, which is today, of course, is branded as a network welcome. And it is a network welcome because we've got partners that have recently come into the fold of our chamber. We want to welcome them to our community. And this is a great opportunity for them to share a little bit more about themselves and show off their faces, not just their brand and what they do for a living. With that, I do want to share my excitement in having Matt on here with me from Edward Jones. Thank you so much for being on here with me.
Absolutely, Juliet. Thank you so much for having me. It's certainly a pleasure to be a part of the chamber. I know I'm a newer member, but events like this are certainly very beneficial, and I'm excited. Hopefully, we can create some binge-worthy content today.
I know, right? Like they're going to watch this and decide to pop some popcorn and come back to us. That's the level that we need to set this at. Well, Matt, I'm excited that you're with Edward Jones. I'm very excited that you've decided to plug into your chamber. Let's tell people about who you are first before we move into what you do on a daily basis.
Absolutely. So just from a personal standpoint, my family has been out here now since 2016 in March. We moved out here. It's actually Good Friday of March of 2016 is the day we actually closed on our house and the day we moved on the same day. I originally grew up in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, a small town called Mentor. Was there my whole life, went to school at Ohio State, and kind of always had the idea that I was going to be in financial services. That's what I went to school for. When I was a student in the early 2000s, I was part of the college financial planning organizations. And that was pretty eye-opening just in terms of getting kids out of debt was just a wild experience at that point in time. But that was kind of my first toe in the water, so to speak. But from there, I kind of moved all over the country. I moved to Connecticut. I lived there for several years. That's where I met my lovely wife. We actually worked together at that point in time, oddly enough. But from there, moved out to Chicago, spent a lot of time there. Made a lot of great relationships. Again, progressed my career. I was always in a sales career within the financial services industry, whether that was working for larger investment firms, insurance firms, things of that nature, and really help focusing on clients that were near or entering the retirement space and helping them generate retirement income. So that's kind of what moved me around. And then after we got married, we were starting a family, and we realized Chicago wasn't going to last forever. So my wife got pregnant with our first son, and we decided we didn't want to be in Chicago any longer. We didn't want to be in the suburbs of Chicago. It wasn't really for us. And Denver was always kind of a place that was on our bucket list of places that we wanted to live. So again, we made that call in 2016. We've been here obviously ever since. And now we have two natives that are part of our family that are here. I have two little boys, 5 and 6, again, both born here. But again, excited for the opportunity to start a business in the community. I've spent my life traveling since I got out of college. I traveled the country 50 weeks out of the year, 4 nights a week. And with a family that got tiresome, but also just being to see the impact that I had with end clients in the community is something that I really cherished through, when I was in my younger days. And it's something that I wanted to be a part of more and more. So that's what kind of brought me here in terms of the office I opened with Edward Jones was community involvement, and also being able to stay local and be a part of my kid's life, so to speak, without traveling every day.
Absolutely. Well, you've given me such great wealth of information, so I have to pick it apart if that's okay.
Absolutely.
First of all, congratulations on your 2 little ones, and also your lovely wife, which we hope to meet one of these days in either a program or event or an outing that you have in the community and about. And also for making Westminster home, or choosing this Westminster area, Colorado, Denver area as where you wanted to kind of build your legacy, essentially, you and your kids, and what next few steps you have ahead. So a couple of things that you spoke to, and I just wanted to share similar. I always like whenever people are speaking, I'm like, oh, this is something similar, right? So I moved here at the start of 2017, so very similar in the timeline of when we moved to the area. But the second thing is you said Ohio State, and I so appreciate that you said Ohio State and not the OSU, because there's only one OSU, and that's in Oklahoma. So just wanted to throw that out there too. We spoke a little bit about Edward Jones and how this is really where you chose to open your office and make your business and everything. What attracted you most to Edward Jones that really made you choose to go down this career path?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I've spent my entire career in this space, working for really, large institutional asset management companies. Some names you may have heard on Wall Street, but not to get into those details. But I always spent time working with financial advisors. They were essentially my clients for the majority of my career. And I would work closely with them and help uncover their client needs and work closely with their client base to help offer solutions to help them solve their financial needs. And in that, I've worked with, many of the largest firms in the country, many of the smallest firms in the country, just a wealth of advisors that are out there. And I was always drawn to the culture at Edward Jones. It's a very close-knit culture. It's a very wholesome culture from everything that I gathered from my experience in working closely with those individuals. Obviously, the firm is tremendous. It's been around for over 100 years. And it was built on the idea of being helping out and being involved in the community. That's how Ted Jones, that was his vision when he started this out 100 years ago. And that's where it was. It was typically, you'd find Edward Jones offices in really rural kind of towns around the country. And that was their motto, was to be the face and the financial advisor in the community. Obviously, nowadays, you drive around even Westminster, and it seems like it's there's a Starbucks or an Edward Jones office on every single corner. But that's how the company was built, and that's what drew me in, was the close-knit culture. Obviously, they have tremendous resources and products and everything that you would expect from a top financial institution. And that's available at a lot of places. But for me, what kind of drew me to this specifically was the people. In every team that I've ever been on, I always like to say that we were so close that we held each other's babies, right? And that goes from my national bosses to the senior directors. It didn't make a difference. We were always very, very close. And, some of my former bosses, their kids babysit my kids today. So it just speaks to the nature of kind of the relationships that I built and the relationship that I cherish. And that was what this firm brought. And that's hopefully what I can bring to my clients at the end of the day.
What I always love whenever I have a chance to sit down and get to know people like yourself, Matt, is that I might know about a brand, and I have run into something, exactly what you said. I might run into an Edward Jones on every corner, a Starbucks, or whatever it is that I see. But I know more about it the more that I meet different people. And that was the first time in over a decade of me knowing about Edward Jones that anyone has spoken to the founding of being involved in the community and wanting to make a difference on that localized level. And it makes sense because now that I look back on who I've worked with in those capacities, I'm like, oh, okay, there was that support from kind of the backside that was there for them to do it. So I'm glad that you shared that, because again, you may have seen the brand, may have seen some people in that. You don't necessarily know what you don't know. We've got a quick comment that's come through from Brian Head. Brian, thank you for joining us and giving us a quick good morning message. For those of you that are just now tuning in with us, we've got Edward Jones, Matt, with us sharing all things about himself, his company that he's affiliated with, and the office, and things that he wants you to be aware of about him, etc. So let's jump right into what are some of those things that you do on a day-to-day basis for your clients, prospective clients, or what services essentially do you provide?
Yeah, so that's kind of a broad question, and I certainly appreciate that. But at the end of the day, it's every client is different, and that's the absolute truth to it. So, I mean, in just three simple bullets, and we can expand on these here in a moment, but three simple bullets is really understanding the client needs, right? As I mentioned, every client is different, right? Whether they're approaching retirement, saving for retirement, looking at healthcare needs, whatever their goals and desires may be. Everybody kind of has a different picture of what that is. So that's the first thing we do in every single meeting. The first time I meet with a client, very rarely do I get into talking about money and investments. It's really all about them, right? What is most important to you? And once we kind of uncover what those needs and those goals are, use a very established process to come up with tailored solutions and individualized solutions to help them meet those goals. And again, that comes from an investment perspective. That's where we begin to talk about kind of what it is that they've saved and where they're at. And then from that, the third leg there is a lifelong partnership. So not only do we understand today and implement solutions today, but we're there throughout the rest of their life, making sure that they not only do they get on track, but then they ultimately stay on track to meet those goals. And, just looking at the current environment that we're in today, you think about the stock market and the volatility, the up and down swings that we've seen. And depending on the news cycle or the publication that you read, there always tends to be negative news about that. So we're all very familiar with that. Obviously, the interest rate environment, right? The big one is always talked about is mortgage rates, but there's a lot more involved when you talk about interest rates and different investment options that are available out there. Those things always change. Heck, life changes, life's priorities change. But I always tell my clients the one thing that's not going to change is my relationship and being there for you and really helping you. And as those things change, we make adjustments to your plan. And we make sure that not only do you get on track, but you stay on track to help meet those goals. And
Mm-hmm.
we do have a process for that, right? It's a 5-step process, a 5-step window. And we look at the clients. Where are you today? You know, what have you saved? What does that mean for you? And then where do you want to go? Where would you like to be? Again, what are those goals that you have? Is it saving for retirement, living in retirement? Do you want to buy a mountain house when you retire? Do you want to go see your grandkids? You know, I mentioned I'm out here. I moved from Ohio. I'm one of 5 siblings. My parents are still back there. They're retired, and that's where they spend their retirement, is traveling around the country visiting their grandkids. They don't really care to see me anymore, but they would love to see their grandkids, right? So everybody is different about kind of what it is and where would they like to be. And then after we kind of cover those first 2 steps, the third and fourth is, can I get there, right? We look at your investments and how we can allocate those investments and the different solutions and strategies that we're able to offer to help you achieve those goals. And if based on our projections, we don't think that you're going to have success in the current plan that you have, we again make those adjustments to help make sure that you can get there. And then the 5th step is making sure that you stay on track. And around all of that, the client's in the middle. It doesn't make a difference what I want. It doesn't make a difference what my firm wants. It really makes a difference of what you want. And that's kind of how I focus my business. That's how I've always been in terms of helping people and offering those solutions. And that's why I chose this firm specifically, was to help people in the community be involved and really see that come to fruition at the end of the day and help them. And part of my mission statement, I say, is I want to help my clients achieve their goals so they can pursue the things that they're passionate about, right? Without having to worry about money and finances.
Yeah. And I think, you spoke to this quite a bit throughout all of those steps that you were mentioning. And it really did seem more of a teamwork approach that you're taking to this. You're creating this relationship between you and your client to make sure that they ultimately reach whatever end goal that they have, and that you're helping them navigate them and holding them accountable throughout that process. So I think that's pretty important to recognize. I also see our Jefferson County Commissioner Tracy Kraft-Tharp popped in here for a little while with us. So thank you for tuning in. Matt, can you speak to, so you've been doing this for the years that you've been in Colorado, so since 2016, or was it a little?
No, I joined Edward Jones in February, but I've been a part of the industry since 2007.
Okay. Yeah. So since February with Edward Jones, your office, is that here in the area, or where is that located?
It is. So my office is just up in Louisville. It's technically like 8 minutes from my house. I live in Westminster with my wife and kids, obviously.
Yeah.
We're actually not too far down the street from the Westminster Rec Center, but my office is right up 36 off of McCaslin and I-36. It's right off the highway. So again, it's just up the road. And I have clients, all up and down the Front Range thus far. And I have clients, frankly, all over the country, from California all the way over to Connecticut and kind of everywhere in between at this point in time. So please don't let that deter you. If you're thinking I'm not in Westminster, but I'm definitely involved in the community. And, if you don't want to come up there, I certainly make the effort to go see my clients, whether it's at their home, whether it's at a coffee shop, kind of you name it. I'm very flexible in that nature.
Totally. And it helps that you live in the area. But one thing that you spoke to, and that's, the distance between where you are and where this is, even though it's not in the community, is so short. And I know this because I head that way quite a bit on a check-in basis. And when I do, it's about an 12 minute drive. I can't even get to 120th from where I am in that short of a time. So even if it does say that it's in another community, especially in Colorado, it seems like every other road is another city. And depending on traffic volumes, time of day, et cetera, it can be even more productive to be somewhere that's not directly in the vicinity that you're at. So thank you for clarifying and showing. We have a few minutes, and I want to ask you a couple of myths, if I can, and then maybe ask you if there's anything that we didn't speak on that you were hoping that I would ask, or that you were really wanting other people to be aware of along the way. I see Sarah Lind on here with us. So Sarah, thank you for tuning in. So a few of these I have quickly Googled. I'm always completely transparent. Our guests never know what these questions are because I generally do this about 2 minutes before we go live, and I find some questions that are out there that mainly people may be feeling that they understand about the industry, or that is preventing them from seeking this expert's advice or perspective because they are aware of this perspective and it's not necessarily either accurate, or it might be accurate to some degree. That being said, I do want to pull up a few. Some of these are easier, some of these are very random. This first one is it a myth to say that saving is investing?
Not necessarily. I mean, people save all the time, and it just goes into their bank account. I have actually come across a couple clients this week alone that have substantial amounts sitting in a checking or savings account because they're afraid of investing. Right? When you think about putting your money to work, is the way I think about investing. Putting your money to work for you, so you can experience growth. Right? Whereas if you put it in savings, it's kind of just going to sit there. And especially where we're at today, I mean, people have, call it a couple $100,000 sitting in the bank, earning essentially zero. That's great. You have emergency savings, you have savings. If that's what you're comfortable with, then that's okay. I'm not going to try to deter anybody about that. There's certainly solutions out there that we can still utilize that remain relatively safe, that can give clients a little bit more upside than what they're earning at the bank in terms of that savings. But in terms of investing, I would say that they're not the same. Just based on the experience that I've had, is kind of investing, putting your money to work and helping it grow versus just kind of stashing money away and making sure it's there for a rainy day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering that. In that same vein, we spoke to moving your money or keeping it in one place. So is this a myth or not? And that is to buy and sell often. Is that interconnected and should be the approach that's taken? Or how would you best answer this?
So I guess everybody's philosophy in that is different, right? In terms of what they view, how they view the markets. I've always kind of viewed the markets as taking a long-term approach, utilizing high quality investments, taking a diversified approach. So kind of investing, don't put all your eggs in one basket, investing across what we would call low correlating asset classes. So if one goes up, the other one kind of goes in reverse, but utilizing diversified asset classes, high quality investments, and taking a long-term approach, not worrying about what happens today or what happens tomorrow. It's how does it affect our goal 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road? Heck, when I want to retire 30 years down the road, what does that mean to me today? And a lot of times there are people that are day traders that will try and take advantage of inefficiencies that they see in the market. I've always said one thing, and again, working for some really large institutional managers, hearing from really smart people on a daily basis, kind of stuck out going back to when I first started in the industry. And I still tell it to clients to this day. It's not about timing the market. It's about your time in the market. And that goes to show, and you look throughout history. If you look at what we would call the S&P 500, which is just an index of the top 500 stocks that are out there. If you look back to 1926, so if my math is correct, that's 97 years. In that time frame, 71 years, the market has been positive. So almost 75% of the time. 26 years, or about 25% of the time, the market has been negative, and it's averaged over that 97 years roughly 10% per year on an annualized basis. When you look at the average investor has averaged about 3.7%. And there's a lot that goes into that. Obviously, they're not always buying stocks. Sometimes they're buying bonds in this instance. But more often than not, they're investing with their emotions, meaning that they are buying and selling too often. And more often than not, they're buying and selling at the wrong time. They're trying to time the market when I've talked to portfolio managers that are way, way, way smarter than I am, and they can't time the market. And that's part of my job as a goals-based financial planner is I say I'm part psychologist, because if somebody comes in and their 401k dropped 20%, obviously that's very emotional. And there's a lot that goes into that. They work their entire life for that savings, and now they're seeing it kind of dwindle away with a tough market. And then they want to sell out. But the problem is when the market rebounds, they're left on the sidelines, and then they're still left down 20%. So there's a lot that goes into that in terms of the emotional side. And I pride myself on, showing that empathy and sharing that empathy with clients, because I've been there before. We've all experienced it. But how can we kind of talk you off that ledge so you stay on track for those long-term goals?
That makes sense. This next question, I have a feeling I know the answer to it, but is it a myth or not? You're too old or too young, those both extremes, to invest. How do you feel about both of those?
I would say there's no wrong time to invest. Obviously the too old, I think, is kind of that just doesn't make any sense, right? If somebody's looking to retire, there's no better time to start than today if you haven't started yet. And then for those individuals that are just starting in their career, I was very, very fortunate that I started in my career, and I don't mean to say fortunate because there was a lot of people affected by it, but during the financial crisis in 2008, I started 1 year before that, and I saw people devastated by the financial markets. Their accounts were down 50%. They were looking to retire and now they couldn't, or they were retired and they had to go back to work. There's just a lot that goes into it. So from looking at it selfishly from that standpoint, I thought, heck, I need to start saving today as a 22, 23-year-old kid out of college. And I try to instill that in my clients. So working professionals these days that make significant dollars, and have no savings and have no investing, I think they're kind of missing a big boat there in terms of how that can affect. And you talk about the rules of compounding. The longer your money has to compound, the better off it's going to be for you down the road. And there's definitely different financial calculators, and we can work through those calculations with our clients in terms of what is saving, even if it's $100 or $500 a month today when you're in your 20s. What does that mean for you when you retire at 60? Or maybe retiring early? What does that look like for you? So there is definitely no wrong time to start investing. So I would absolutely say that is an absolute myth.
Absolutely. Well, we'll do one more and then we'll probably start wrapping up if that's okay. I'm loving all these answers that you're giving me, Matt. So I would love to continue to keep this, but I know that we're both pulled in different directions. So we'll answer this final one and then we'll do a quick wrap for folks. And this is that you should not basically invest in things that you don't know. So you should always invest in what you know. Do you feel like that's a myth or not?
I think that is probably a fair statement, actually, to invest in things that you know, and that's why you work with professionals like myself. Is right. Mm-hmm. If you're not familiar with certain companies, certain investments, certain products, and the way that they work, you definitely shouldn't invest in those until you have a complete and full understanding. And that's, again, part of my job is to fully educate my clients and make recommendations based on their needs and their goals. And help them feel comfortable, right? If a client walks out of my door and they're not comfortable with the solutions that we put in front of them, then I did not do a good job. So that's part of it. If you're not comfortable with it, if you're not familiar with it, I would say this statement on the bottom of the screen here of you should invest in what you know is absolutely true, because you have to be educated. You don't want to be blindsided. And unfortunately, I've seen it in my career where a client bought a product and a solution that they thought was going to do one thing, and it didn't do any of it. And they were, put in a bad spot, and that comes down on the advisor and individuals not explaining things properly. And a lot of times in layman's terms where the client can understand. So it's, again, part of my role and part of my job and the due diligence that I do is to I understand everything that I present to my clients, but I ultimately have to make sure that they understand it equally as well before they make a decision on to take that recommendation or not.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for thoroughly answering all of these rapid fire questions, Matt. I've enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about yourself and your passion for what you do. And I hope others have also been able to feel that and see that in our conversation together. As you were quickly answering our last question, what I made sure to do was include a link directly to your Edward Jones page that has information about where your location is, even your phone number, how they can email you. And I've also tacked in your phone number as well into the comment section for those that may have an interest in either reaching you directly or trying to communicate with you about anything that we've talked about or just something else in general. Of course, what I always tell people is if you're watching this later, which we have a bulk of folks that do watch this after we're no longer live, then you can always ask us the question later on by giving us the hashtag replaying question. Or if you have a concern or a particular situation you don't want other people to know and you want to DM the page, you can do so. And we'll, of course, get that back to our guest that's with us today. Matt, I've asked you random questions. I've asked you more targeted questions. Was there anything in particular that I did not ask that you were really hoping to get out there for folks?
I don't know that it's pressing, but I always do like to share with anybody that I talk to, whether it's a prospective client, whether it's just somebody in the community, a neighbor, a friend, whatever it may be. If anybody out there, just wants to talk, I don't charge anything for time. I don't charge anything for consultations. In fact, the only time I do get compensated is if a client decides to invest. So I spend a lot of my time, again, analyzing people's situations and their goals. And, it's a mutual relationship, right? We talk and do fact finding on each other to see if we're going to be a good fit to create that lifelong partnership and work together. But again, there's no cost to a consultation to review your current financial plan or to even put an initial financial plan together for you. That's just a service that we provide, and in the hopes that you see the value that we're able to provide to you in terms of helping you achieve your financial success.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for sharing more about yourself, spending the time with us. And for those of you that are tuned in, we so appreciate your engagement on this. I just quickly want to reemphasize this Saturday is the Public Safety Open House with Westminster Police Department. So if you're free, drop on by so you can meet some of those members of our community that are making a big difference and positive difference. It is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. over at the Public Safety Center. So with that, thank you, Matt. Thank you for all of you that have joined in, and we'll be back on here with another broadcast soon.
Thank you, Juliet. Have a great day.